And our New Testament lesson comes to us from Luke's Gospel, chapter 6, verses 17 to 23. Jesus came down with them and stood on a level place, with a great crowd of the disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea, Jerusalem, and the coast of Tyre and Sidon. They had come to hear him and be healed of their diseases. And those who were troubled with unclean spirits were cured. And all in the crowd were trying to touch him, for power came out from him and healed all of them. Then he looked up at his disciples and said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you, revile you, and defame you on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for surely your reward is great in heaven. For that is what their ancestors did to the prophets." Let's pray. Lord, come into our hearts, our minds, and our lives, not only in truth, but in power, that your word may transform us according to your will and by your love. Amen. So, C.S. Lewis, the popular theologian, best-selling Christian author of the 20th century, once said the following, and just so you understand, for those of you who don't imbibe, port is a Portuguese fortified wine often served as a dessert wine, just so you understand this quote a little bit better. Some of us understand it perfectly. Anyway, Lewis said this, "I didn't go to religion to make me happy. I always knew a bottle of port would do that. If you want a religion to make you feel really comfortable, I certainly don't recommend Christianity." Now that we're in the second week in Lent, second Sunday in Lent, Lewis's words continue to challenge any of us who see their Christian faith solely in terms of comfort and security. You know, I think a lot of Christians think of Christianity like I, in my younger days, used to daydream about an attractive girl who walked by on the beach or the boardwalk. Maybe I better explain this. Anyway, you see this beautiful person, right? And it sets your imagination ablaze, right? You picture asking her out, and it all goes perfectly. It's a great start to your dream. And so what do? You run with it. The two of you can just picture this, fall madly and deeply in love, and get married, and you live happily ever after. All this happening while you're sitting there on a boardwalk bench or on a beach blanket. But you see, such a dreamed up life is in reality a pipe dream, far removed from reality, because such a dreamed up life has no cares, no responsibilities, no challenges. And if that's what your expectations are for a relationship, then such a dream is only going to lead to disappointment and heartache, because relationships aren't like that. Life isn't like that. And I believe that's how many Christians perceive their relationship to Jesus. They dream that once they claim a faith in Jesus, all their cares will vanish, their life in relationship with God will be free from worries, free from responsibilities, challenges, free from heartaches. And my question is this: where in the world would we get that idea? To truly live out our faith, as outlined in the Gospels, is anything like a carefree existence or sipping on a sifter of port. And this is precisely what C.S. Lewis was trying to tell us, and it's also precisely what Jesus was trying to explain to his followers on that long ago day in Palestine. Now picture this scene in Luke. Jesus had just come down from the mountain after a night of prayer. And he was about to choose his disciples from among the crowd. And the text tells us that he followed them down to where they stood on a level place. In other words, Jesus was standing right eye to eye with them, looking directly into their eyes. The time had come for Jesus to pull no punches. He was about to ask them to leave their lives behind, to follow him, the hotbed of political and religious power in Israel, to follow him to Jerusalem. But before they would be given a chance to respond to the invitation, they had to know exactly what they would be up against. And the crowd that gathered around Jesus had come from all different walks of life, all different stages of life. They came to hear his words of wisdom, it says, to be healed of their diseases, to have their depressed spirits uplifted. In other words, they were no different than a typical 21st century Sunday morning congregation on a typical 21st century Sunday morning in a typical 21st century American church. They were just like us, with the world pressing in on all sides. They had come to Jesus for comfort. But on this day, Jesus' words would sound like anything but comfort, at least as far as what lay ahead for those who were going to accompany him to Jerusalem. As he turned to speak to them, they must have witnessed the concern as well as the compassion in his eyes. The look of someone about to say something that would be hard for his hearers to take. Sort of like when someone's about to tell their boyfriend or girlfriend that they're going to break up with him. Now, this was not the look the crowd was either wanting or expecting. Swallowing hard, Jesus began to speak to them. And yes, the words he spoke offered hope, but they also foreshadowed despair. He blessed them all, but he concluded with the following words. Blessed are you when people hate you, and when they exclude you, revile you, and defame you on account of the Son of Man. Huh? What did he say? Hate you, exclude you, revile you, defame you. Hey, Jesus, we came here for a message of hope and comfort. What are you saying? Is that any way to get blessed? I got a better idea. Right? Hand me a bottle of port. Okay? Seriously, who would ever choose to follow after someone when following means that you will suffer all manner of vilification and slander and persecution? But here's the thing, saints. Jesus knew that if the world was going to be transformed from the decrepit state that it was in, he was going to need followers to do exactly what they were getting into. And guess what? He still does. You see, anyone can promise all the comforts of the material world. Any politician running for office can promise tax cuts and rebates and an end to male pattern baldness. Any televangelist can promise a seat right next to God in heaven as long as we send him lots of money. Heck, late at night, a beautiful young woman will assure you that when a lonely guy places the call to that 900 number, he will never be lonely again. Well, Jesus didn't know anything about 900 numbers, but he did know that such promises as these turn to dust when they meet up with the cold, hard reality of life on this planet. Jesus alone knew how difficult the road to discipleship would be, and he knew that once the crowd found out what he was asking of them, many that would not be willing to take on the yoke that he offered. You see, some offer prosperity and wealth and social status, but all he could offer was sacrifice and the hardship of the road. Again, who in their right mind would ever accept such an offer? And yet if we listen closely to his words, we will hear the one thing that makes all the suffering and sacrifice and the endurance worth the effort. And after the dust clears, it all comes down to that one word. And that word is hope. The incentive we have to follow Jesus is found there in the blessings he gave to the poor and the hungry and the sad people around him. It's found in two words in the center of the blessing. And those two words are these. You will, he says. You will. Saints, listen, when Jesus says you will, it carries a bit more weight than when it's uttered by a politician, a TV evangelist, or even a late-night lonely lady. Right? In his second blessing, Jesus states, blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Right? now, for you will laugh. These are blessings that will happen to those who believe in him. No, they aren't guaranteed in the immediate present. They are not guaranteed in the immediate present, where the road will be rough for anyone who desires to make a difference. Expect it to be rough. But they're part of a future blessing. Not just in the next life, but also in this one. That awaits the faithful. And this hope, it beckons them. It beckons us forward. Despite what you may have heard from the wolves in sheep's clothing and the false prophets out there, following Jesus has never been an assurance of a comfortable life or material sustenance. But saints, genuine blessings are promised for those who possess the faith it takes to pick themselves up and journey with him. Jesus culminates his invitation with, "Blessed are you when people hate you and when they exclude you, and revile you and defame you on account of the Son of Man," on account of him. But he goes on to say this, "Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for surely your reward is great in heaven." Those of us who choose to follow Christ live out our lives in the constant knowledge of the joy promised to us when we dare to take on the evils of this world. And we ought to live every second of our lives in anticipation of that joy. And it is because of that promised joy that we say yes to Jesus' offer and step forward in faith. And it is the taking of that first step that we discover, you see, who we really are. Who we really are. Not one who turns a cynical shoulder to the world and says it's hopeless and do nothing about it, but rather disciples of a courageous hero who walks boldly before us, whether that road leads us down country roads or city streets. We who follow are a people who truly believe that our lives can and will make a difference in our community, in our nation, and in our world. And the blessings we receive in that knowledge are greater than all the material wealth the world can offer us. We live in anticipation of such joy. But as followers of Jesus, we should also live with the expectation of pain. There are so many who come to church thinking for some reason, again, it ain't in the Bible, that the Christian life is a cakewalk, that going to church will make their lives comfortable and secure. And of course, there are some so-called preachers who take the easy way out and they tell them exactly what they want to hear. But nothing could be further from the truth. If we open our ears to really hear the gospel without watering it down with flowery sentimentalities, we are taken aback by the blunt way that Jesus described what will happen to those who place their faith in him. Because if we are actually doing his work, if we are truly taking on what is unjust in this world, then we should expect to be challenged by those who don't want things to change and will stop at nothing to maintain the status quo. Makes them a lot of money, gives them a lot of power, you see. And they don't surrender that easily. Heck, we may very well be hated and excluded and reviled and defamed just like Jesus said we would. But you see, if that happens, we cannot fall back. We cannot get discouraged. We must press on ever stronger. One thing that happens in so many churches, and it ought to drive us crazy, it's when a church feels God is calling them in a new direction in ministry. Things often get off to a really great start. But then with the first sign of trouble, somebody in the church starts complaining, and then others begin to join in. At the first hint of adversity, they're ready to throw in the towel, abandon the ministry to which they've been genuinely called by Jesus himself. And why? Because their expectations were off. They somehow expected all ministry to go so smoothly, so conveniently. But isn't Jesus, in fact, telling us exactly the opposite? Jesus didn't say, "Bless you when people love you and include you and praise you and honor you." He said, bless you when people hate you and exclude you and revile you and defame you. So many churches want to give up when they're the least bit criticized. Give up. I mean, such adversity is a reliable sign that we are on the right track. If there are those out there opposing us, that means we're most probably doing the right thing. Getting kicked around, saints? Good job. Keep it up. Keep it up. Being persecuted for doing what Jesus asked us to do ought to be worn as a badge of honor, not discarded on the side of the road. Persecuted. Persecuted. Oh, really? Well, bless you, church. Bless you, church. God's blessings upon us. For we are taking on the world's perception of reality and replacing it with something new. God's reality. And so what if this new reality conflicts with the way of the world? Because the way of the world is about self-preservation. Get all you can, survival of the fittest. But God's reality is based entirely upon this. Love your neighbor as yourself. That reality can be expressed in so many wonderful ways, so many types of ministry, programs, networks, services. But let me tell you, loving your neighbor is the only reality worth living for. Because without it, we are doomed. Not just as a church, but as a nation, as a world. So yeah, we may be called upon to go to some shady places to proclaim that neighborly love, in the teeth of violence, hunger, homelessness. But we go wherever we are sent, wherever. Because there is no place on earth that is not redeemable. No matter the challenge that awaits us, no matter the overwhelming nature of it all, if we are truly His followers, then we will accept the challenge He places before us. Because a Christian is one whose anticipation of joy outweighs any fear of the hardships encountered as we follow Jesus on the way. Needless to say, no one's life so embodied these words as did Jesus' own. He didn't just talk the talk. He delivered truth in all its power to the very strongholds of injustice and evil wherever He found them. He took on the monstrous poverty that ravaged first century Palestine. He took on demons who drove persons to madness. He took on the oppression of the Roman Empire and its exploitation of the weak and the powerless. He took on the evil that gripped the religious leaders of His day, who had forgotten about their duty to the poor and the oppressed and the alien, and instead boasted in their own self-righteousness. We are called upon to do no less. This season we call Lent is set aside each year to prepare our hearts for Jesus' triumphal entry into the city of Jerusalem and the events that transpired in the week leading up to His trial and execution. But what this passage tells us is this. Before Lent is a time of preparation. It is a time of decision. We cannot prepare our hearts for something we really don't want to be a part of. We cannot half-heartedly shoulder the cross. We cannot tentatively walk into the streets of Edison or Newark or any place on earth. Before we say yes to Jesus, let's ask ourselves this. Are we able to take up our cross and follow Him to Calvary? Are we able to go beyond the doors of the sanctuary and take hope to the streets? Are we able to make sacrifices necessary to make God's love a reality in the hearts of so many in need of that love? Are we able? In the passage that Alice read from Deuteronomy 31, the Israelites find themselves poised on the verge of the Promised Land. And there, after 40 years in the wilderness, Moses addressed them for the final time. You know, across the Jordan were the enemies of Israel who would fight them tooth and nail. Many were too frightened to cross over. The odds were so overwhelmingly set against them. But Moses gave them a sword that outweighed all the weapons of the enemy. He gave them a sword, and that sword is called the promises of God. He said, the Lord will give them over to you, and you shall deal with them in full accord with the command that I've given you. Be strong and bold. Have no fear or dread of them, because it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not fail or forsake you. See, that is exactly what the Apostle Paul meant when he wrote this in Romans. I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed to us. It is this reality-based faith we need to accept if we ourselves are to march boldly forth from here into the world outside these doors. Saints, do we really believe that God will go before us? Do we really believe that we can turn this world around with no weapon other than love? Do we really believe in the promises of joy that await the faithful disciples? Do we really believe that the sufferings of the present time are not worth comparing to the glory about to be revealed to us? If we do, then let us on this second Sunday of Lent reach down and pick up our cross and begin the march forward. Our faith greater than our fear, our zeal greater than our trepidation, our anticipation of joy greater than our expectation of pain. Are ye able, said the Master, to be crucified with me? Yea, the sturdy New Dover dreamers answered. Now as then in Galilee. Let's pray.